G'day watchers, and welcome back to the channel and to this head-to-head face-off between two of my GMT watches. On the left I have my Seiko Kinetic, which I've reviewed really quite recently. Both of these watches are GMT style. Of course, they are field style watches with leather bands and black dials, very similar size. On the right side I have my Ingersoll Lawrence GMT, one of my very early videos, which has proven to be kind of popular actually over time. I'm just going to wind it to get it going. I've not actually set the time on these, but I guess that in a sense doesn't matter for a head-to-head comparison like this. Now, they have obviously different movements. One is a kinetic quartz, the other is a automatic piece. They have different bezel styles and purposes, but they have a very similar MSRP, $395 for the Seiko, and as close as I can guess, this would be about 450 US. I can definitely say that this is 650 Australian dollars locally, and this is 699 Australian dollars as an MSRP. Of course, the actual price you pay may be different. Okay, so let's go through the 10 categories which I've explained before. Okay, so firstly, the caliber or the movement. There's not a direct comparison here, and I'm not going to try to compare quartz versus an automatic. I'm just going to put a 7 because they are both, you know, okay. They're not fantastic. I think the kinetic is I guess a technology that's been around for a long time. This is now a 6-month power reserve, but I will say it does seem to be quite difficult to charge. You know, I've kept this on for, you know, most of the day, for 7 days. It still vacillates between whether it's 1 day of charge and more than 2 days of charge. I definitely haven't gotten this to go to actually I have gotten this to go to 1 month, more than 1 month, but sometimes it still drops below 1 month, you know, despite keeping it on my hand for you know the better part of 16 hours a day. I don't understand why it's been quite difficult. This particular movement is a seagull movement, the Ingersoll caliber. It's an alright movement. I think Seagull's a reasonable company. But it is weak on the power reserve. It is only a 30-hour power reserve. This watch I have regulated it myself, so it keeps excellent time. But you know, it's not you know, by any means a top-line luxury caliber in any way. So you know, 7 for both, not directly comparable. Design, okay. Now, the Seiko I've given a 7. It's utilitarian. It's casual. It's quite an edgy dial design. It's certainly got a, you know, sharp bezel design with that undecorated, unpainted or coated stainless steel. But you know, as per my review, it does have not a great choice of GMT design. That GMT hand in white is just too close in design to the hour and minute hands. It's also skeletonized. That loom on the tip is not differentiated enough from the hour or minute hand, and it's nearly impossible to tell the time from the GMT hand in the dark. I think they could have done better. Either paint the body of the GMT hand black or dark, or just make it an overall darker color. So you know, I like a lot of the design cues they've chosen, but they failed on that GMT design there. Okay, now the Ingersoll, I think overall I've given an 8 to this because I do like the classic style. It's not the edginess of the Seiko, but it's got a great looking style. I like the button choices they've made. It's really a little bit ostentatious, you know, the hands, the face, the case shape and the design of the case. You know, I think they've made some good choices there. I also like the way they've designed the inner bezel, and it's a rotating inner bezel on this watch. So you know, I've given the edge on design to the Ingersoll because I think it just works better. And then of course, sorry, I forgot to point this out, is the GMT hand. You can see it's actually red with a triangle loom tip, whereas the hour and minute hands is completely painted as well as loom along its length. So I have never had a difficulty telling the time either in the daytime or in the dark with this one. So, you know, I think it just makes a lot more sense to me. Now, quality. I've given 8 for both. I find it very difficult to separate these two, you know, in terms of the quality of the craftsmanship, the attention to detail, you know, how have done the straps. You can see the detailing on the strap. This is genuine leather, whereas I think this is a synthetic leather of some form. But they are both, you know, I think they're both very good. They've got good fit and finish. I think the Seiko has a slightly better detailing and attention to the dial there. It's really quite sharp with those applied markings and applied Seiko name, whereas the Ingersoll does actually have what is largely a printed dial. But you know, I think the Ingersoll does have a better strap with genuine leather, and you know, the way they've done the stitching on that, I really quite like that. Okay, going on to next thing, style. So I think you can roughly tell already. I really like the Ingersoll, the case design. Look at that rounded, polished sides. That, you know, 10 o'clock position for that inner rotating bezel. You know how it rotates like that. Those overtly flamboyant, you know, pushes for the date, the day, you know, the month and the day choices there. That nice crown. You know, I really like how they've done the design of that Ingersoll, that old world style. Yet it's a modern watch. You know, I've given the edge to the Ingersoll 9 for that, one of my favorite looking watches. You know, the Seiko's not bad. I've given the Seiko an 8. It's solid. It's utilitarian design. It's got a good bezel. I think it's, you know, it's got that stylish edginess on that bezel, solid and polished look. But you know, it really, I do give that slight edge to the Ingersoll in this case. Okay, performance. 7 for the Seiko, 8 for the Ingersoll. Now they're both slightly different functions, as you can tell. This one is a compass bezel, which you coordinate with that GMT hand to find your compass direction. You know, and then that GMT hand, of course, is to set to whatever time zone you want compared to the local time. This one is a more pure GMT with that 24-hour rotating bezel for you to find different time zones. It's got that nice GMT hand. And it's got the day of the week and month there, but you know, they're marginal improvements in function. I think overall, I like how they've implemented the GMT, and the GMT is easy to use on the Ingersoll with the time zone look. This one, it works quite well as a smart little function with that compass direction finding, and I've done a little tutorial when I reviewed this watch. If you're interested to take a look at the review, but again, I have to knock off a mark for the way they've colored that GMT hand and the way they've designed it and where they've put the loom, how it's too similar to the hour and minute hand. It doesn't make sense, and it falls off in performance, particularly, you know, even something like basic timekeeping. I have to knock off a mark, so I've given a 7 for the Seiko there. Now, versatility. I think the Seiko slightly edges out on this. You know, it's a little bit more quiet. You know, that Ingersoll has those loud buttons and crowns. You know, 2 crowns, 2 buttons, which are large. They're both the same, very similar size. But the Seiko, even though it has 1 millimeter larger in diameter on the case, it has a smaller face, and it is a thinner watch. So you know, I think overall this is able to go under the radar a bit better in a larger amount of context. And if you take it on the other side, this has a screw-in crown and screw-in case back. And if you swap out these leather straps, which probably shouldn't get wet, you can use this, you know, as a waterproof watch. I would have no problems using this in the pool if I swap out these straps for, you know, a NATO or whatever. Whereas this one, you know, it's not a proper waterproofing. You know, this is not a screw-in crown, and it doesn't have a screw-in case back either. So, you know, on the other side of the waterproofing, this is also more versatile. So I have to give it to the Seiko. 8 versus 7 there. Durability, I think they're both well-made cases. You know, they're both very solid, you know, feeling steel, 316L steel in both cases. They neither have sapphire, they're both mineral glass, and they both have that weakness on that display back, if you consider that a compromise. They have leather straps, you know, which I guess you should avoid getting wet. So in terms of durability, they're not the toughest watches, but the cases itself do feel pretty solid. I've given 7 for both there. Okay, so now value, which is influenced by everything above. I have to give it to the Ingersoll. 8 for Ingersoll, 7 for Seiko. Seiko's not bad, but you know, I think for nearly the same price, the Ingersoll wins over with you know, that nice design, the styling, you know, that old world style. The leather strap, I think, just overall has a nicer look to it. You know, it's just got that ruggedness that fits its character. You know, yes, the Seiko is more versatile, but you know, I think overall I've given that value, assuming it's the price of the MSRP, and I think the sale prices are about very similar and comparable. I think the Ingersoll wins over. Okay, brand recognition and prestige. I think there's no question. Seiko, I will give an 8 any day. They have history. They have a long line of innovation. They're recognized. You know, they've done some good work for the world of watches overall. I think I have to give the edge to Seiko without a doubt. Ingersoll, on the other hand, I think they do some good things, but you know, they are Chinese owned. Xeon Limited is overall the Chinese umbrella company. They're not as well owned, but they do put out some pieces that are starting to get appreciated by collectors. You know, in the reading that I've done around. So 7 for Ingersoll, but definitely a more solid 8 for Seiko. Okay, lastly, X Factor. What have I given? I've given 8 for both. X Factor for a Seiko, just because of the name. I think it does have a nice DNA to it. It's a bit different. It's got an edginess, a sportiness. It's got a nice casual utilitarian design. But you know, in the end, I think the name also adds a lot to this particular watch for X Factor. Ingersoll. Really, it's a personal thing for me. You know, I've enjoyed this watch over many months now. It has a nice character of its own. It really stands out, and it serves its function as a casual watch. I've used this on many a weekend in a very, I guess, in a very solid way. I really like it, and I feel that this has a special X factor for me. So I've given an 8 for both of that. Okay, so as you can tell, it's actually very close. Now, what have I ended up with? 77 for the Ingersoll, 75 for the Seiko. It just edges out in this head-to-head. You know, I think if that Seiko, particularly with that GMT hand design, was a bit better, it would be maybe just completely even, or maybe the Seiko would edge out. Who knows? Alright, so in the end, a close one. 2 solid GMT field style watches, very similar price points. Both have good quality, solid cases. The Seiko is slightly more versatile with the sizing, the water resistance, and it has the brand prestige. The Ingersoll wins out in the end because of design, style, the GMT performance overall, and the value that all that entails. Okay guys, that's the head-to-head between this Seiko and the Ingersoll. Let me know what you think, and I guess how you feel about the result. As always, give us a like and comment. You know, whatever feedback is always appreciated, and I will catch you guys next time.